Hi, I'm Doug from Dynamic Computing, and welcome to episode 150 of 10-Minute Amiga Retrocast. This week's something a little bit different, as it seems the long-standing lawsuit between Hyperion Entertainment and Cloanto/CA Acquisitions has finally been concluded. The judge has finally reached a decision in the case. Could this mean the end of Amiga litigation and that all the parties involved are now just going to hold their hands, sing Kumbaya, and collaborate on awesome Amiga products? Well, considering what's been happening with the Amiga since 1994, I doubt it. But a man can dream. To summarize the situation, Hyperion Entertainment received a license back in about 2009 to work on and produce Amiga OS 4.x for PowerPC Amigas. Now, at that time, the Amiga trademarks were owned by Amiga Inc., a company in Washington State, here in the good old US of A, who were most famous for sitting on their collective hands and doing absolutely nothing, while at the same time announcing silly projects that we all knew were doomed to fail. Now, my favorite Amiga Inc. project from back in the day was when they announced they were releasing this awesome Amiga game pack for the BlackBerry phone system. Now, this was like a year or more after everybody on planet Earth knew that the iPhone and the Android were the two systems for your cell phone, and BlackBerry was losing market share literally month by month. They were losing millions of subscribers. I thought it was literally one of the dumbest things that I've ever seen a company announce. It's just, yeah, okay, make it for all three platforms. Make it for a platform that might succeed and isn't losing market share. Well, one thing they did do was they worked with Hyperion and gave them a license to work on Amiga OS 4.x. And then Amiga Corporation seemed to vanish into oblivion, and they had not even updated their dumb website in like 10 years before it was taken down in like 2017. Now, a few things happened in 2017 and 2018. The wheels began to get into motion to transfer the rights and licenses from Amiga Inc. over to our good friend Mike Bagliana from Cloanto. You guys know him. He did Amiga Forever. Also in this period, a group of dedicated Amiga developers decided to upgrade the venerable Amiga OS 3.1 to the awesome Amiga OS 3.1.4. And I did several reviews and tutorials on this. You can see a playlist right there. Now, obviously Hyperion had every right in the world to develop and sell Amiga OS 4.1. Did this also extend to the rights to sell and upgrade and provide support for Amiga OS 3.x? Probably not, but it was a little bit cloudy. And Cloanto thought they didn't have the right. So in 2017, a lawsuit was filed, get this, by Cloanto, which at the time, they were not the rights holder for it. Amiga Inc. still existed, but it was filed by Cloanto for trademark and copyright infringement on the original 2009 agreement, which Cloanto had nothing to do with. Now, in the meantime, Hyperion continued to release new updates for Amiga OS 3.1.4, 3.2, 3.21, and 3.22 just a month ago. And Cloanto kept coming out with the new versions of Amiga Forever. So both of them are, making money on the license. Now, Cloanto and the new company, which we'll talk more about in a second, CA Acquisitions, which eventually did get the rights to the Amiga, they remained pretty silent this entire time from 2017 until now about what was going on with the Amiga, what was going to be done with the technology, what the future was, even though they owned the licenses. Now, when asked, Mike would often say he can't say anything due to the ongoing litigation. Now, I've been keeping up with this, and I've read the court documents. I can't find anywhere where the judge said, "Thou shalt not talk about what your company can talk about to the public." There's nothing in there that says that. I mean, literally nothing. Now, I've often said over the past several years, in many, many places, that Mike should have been screaming from the rooftops what's going to happen with the Amiga. Now, he was involved with the C64 from Retro Limited and the A500 Mini with licensing for that. And he was involved with licensing the Amiga logo for the Amiga 500 keyboard. I just did a review on that little guy right there. And it's what I typed this whole script on, was my Amiga keyboard. Why did he not scream all this from the rooftops? Why did he not put on his Amiga website, which is horrible, this is what we're doing, this is what we're sponsoring, this is what we're licensing, and really, like I said, scream from the rooftops. Now, full disclosure, I know Mike. I've met him, I've spoke to him several times. He is a wonderful human being. Just love the man. He's warm, he's kind, he's funny. I just wish he could read the tea leaves better and become more involved with the community, or if he's not comfortable with that, hire somebody to become involved with the community and talk to us. That's what we needed to do over the last 5 years. Enough sad history. On to the actual court case that was just settled March 30th. Here's a copy of it right here. I'll have a link in the description about what was going on, and you'll be able to read the actual results yourself. Now, on March 30th, on the United States District Court in Seattle, Washington, the judge handed down the decisions on the case. Now, you may be wondering, why was the case handled in the United States of America? Well, that's because the Commodore Amiga is 100% American-born, American-bred. America! Each Amiga contains at least 20% recycled Bald Eagles and Bud Light. Guaranteed. But the important thing about the case is Hyperion won. Everything, every last aspect of it went to Hyperion's favor. Let's talk about it. The first issue is when Cloanto filed the lawsuit in like late 2017, early 2018 against Hyperion for a breach of contract. Now, the judge was like, yo, buddy, you don't own any rights to the Amiga name at all. You're Cloanto. You're a licensee from Amiga Inc. And so they had to hurry and transfer the rights to a new company that Michael owns called CA Acquisitions. This was all done relatively quickly, and they had to file some extensions to get it in on time. But it was clear that Cloanto didn't have any rights that they were trying to defend. They had to get the rights from Amiga Inc. Now, the courts allowed the new CA Acquisitions to join the lawsuit in 2019. But as of March 30th, just a couple of days ago, the claim was denied and went in favor of Hyperion. And this closed out several complaints that Cloanto/CA had against Hyperion. Next, there was a breach of contract claim regarding Amiga OS 3.1.4, regarding the names Kickstart, Workbench, the Boing Ball logo, and other things like that. Now, Hyperion avoided this as it was Amiga Inc., the original owners that had the contract with Hyperion. They no longer existed. CA Acquisitions did take over the rights from Amiga Inc., but they were created after the suit was filed. So basically, the judge in this one stated that CA Acquisitions had no standing in this part of the case because they didn't acquire everything in time. They acquired contract claims, but they had no case. So that part was dismissed too. Now, the next one is a bit legally sounding. Cloanto claimed that using copyright Hyperion Entertainment, which shows up on the top bar, and when you go to the help about on your Amiga, it's my Amiga 1200 Pi Storm right there, they stated that using that, their own names in Amiga OS 3.1.4 was illegal. But in the original contract from 2009, it clearly states that they cannot be sued for using the Amiga trademarks that were licensed to them. It literally says it right in there. And I know they were talking about Amiga OS 4.x, but I read the documentation and it says software and Amiga OS 4.1 or 4.x. It's a little bit vague, I agree. But it literally states that any case brought against them for this specific reason Boom, dismissed. It literally states that in the original contract. And the court literally said that Cloanto tied themselves in a knot. That's an actual quote, because on one hand, they claim to have all the rights transferred to them, but those rights include the inability to sue in this particular instance. Is it fair? Not really. Is it legal? Apparently, Cloanto lost that one. Another one in Hyperion's column. The next several claims, and there were a couple more, you can read about them, were dismissed because Cloanto admitted, came right out and said that the previous Amiga parties did relinquish some copyrights and trademarks, so that those particular parts of the case had no standing because those copyrights and trademarks had been relinquished years ago, and they weren't just magically renewed when CA Acquisitions took on what rights and licenses were remaining. So Cloanto and CA Acquisitions didn't have those rights, so the judge dismissed those parts of the case too. Another one in Hyperion's column. There were a total of 5 things, main things the court was looking at, some of them with several sub-complaints in there. All of them were decided in Hyperion's favor. None of them in Cloanto and CA Acquisitions' favor. So what does that mean for Cloanto and CA Acquisitions? What does it mean for Hyperion? What does it mean for you? What's it mean for me? Well, let's talk about it. The way I see it, Amiga OS 3.2.2 and above are not going anywhere. And hopefully, again, these are just theories, we're just talking out loud here. Hopefully, it should mean that soon it will be legal to buy a downloadable copy of Amiga OS 3.2.2 and not have to rely on buying the CD version. It should be a wake-up call to Cloanto/CA Acquisitions to now ask to work with Hyperion on Amiga OS 3.2 and above. Some kind of revenue sharing agreement. Making a little money from distributing and licensing makes more sense than losing a lot of money in lawsuits. Maybe they can work out an agreement where Amiga Forever can include, there's a version that includes Amiga OS 3.2.2, whatever the latest version is and the latest ROMs. Mike makes money off the software downloads from Amiga Forever. Cool. Hyperion makes money off the physical copies. Cool. Everyone makes a couple of bucks. Now, Cloanto has no excuses and can no longer say, my lips are sealed because of the litigation. Tell us what you're doing with licensing. Scream it from the rooftops. Put it on a website. Have guys like me talk about it, about what you're going to be doing. Work with the Vampire team to legally distribute 3.1 ROMs. I know they've contacted Mike about it. Work with the guys like Caffeine OS and some of the other utilities where they have this customized Amiga OS 3.1, like Pymiga, where you can legally license the ROM and resell the products at a reasonable price. Have a licensing agreement, so, okay, here's 250 licenses for X dollars. Here's 500 licenses for X dollars. Have at it, it's legal. Hyperion should also do some revenue sharing with Cloanto and CA Acquisitions for the Amiga OS 3.2.2 that they sell from like here on out. You sell a copy of the $50 CD, little of it goes to Mike. What's wrong with that? And for goodness sakes, both sides need to swallow their pride. I know it's hard to do. Swallow their pride. Make a joint announcement for the sake of the community. We're a fairly large community. There's tens of thousands of us. We know they hate each other. We know you guys hate each other, want to punch each other in the face. We get it. But for the sake of the community, imagine how good it would be for you guys to stand up, make a joint announcement, declare to leave the past behind, and declare to work together in the future for the sake of the Amiga community. Please? Now, there's going to be a subset of you that watch this. They were going to be screaming, Amiga OS should be open source, release it to the community. Well, I can guarantee that you guys that are watching this now and getting ready to type in the comments about how it should be open source, I bet you have a job, and I bet you like to get paid for the work that you do. So, sorry guys, Amiga is owned. It is copyrighted software that is owned by human beings who deserve to be able to make a living. So just pay the $50 like I do, like hundreds of us do, and have fun with your Amiga. Get over it. Now, I'm personally thrilled that this lawsuit is over. And I humbly ask everybody involved to stop suing each other so we can all move on with our Amiga-loving lives. Please continue to innovate. Come out with new versions of Amiga OS 3.2.2. Please, Mike, this is for you. In Amiga Forever, just please let us choose a custom ROM. If we want to use an Amiga 3.22 ROM, just let us do it so we don't have to push your software aside and just use WinUAE. Please do that now. And also, Cloanto/CA Acquisitions. License the Amiga name to new mice, new keyboards, t-shirts, hats, mouse pads, other cool stuff. You know, we'd love that stuff. We'd buy it up. Just do it. It's not that hard. And put it on your website. Keep innovating, Hyperion, with Amiga OS 4.1 and above. And wave some kind of magic wand to make it run on some kind of hardware that doesn't cost $2,500 to get into, please. And lastly, please don't sue me because my logo is an Amiga Boing ball over an Amiga 1000. I didn't do it. It's Kevin Saunders. He made my logo. Go after him. Huge thanks to all my patrons for their support. Here, their lovely names are superimposed over a 736 by 480 16 color image of lawyers making money because they're the only ones who got anything at all out of this fiasco. If you want to join in and support the channel, pop on over to patreon.com/10mark for more information and to help me pay for my future legal bills when they come after me for my logo. Thanks for joining me today. I really appreciate it. I'm sure the comment section is going to fill up with haters on one side or another. Come at me, bro. That's fine. I don't mind. Personally, I'm not on either side. I like Hyperion Entertainment. I love the Amiga developers that do work for them. They're fantastic human beings. I love Mike from Cloanto. I love Amiga Forever. I want everybody to be successful. Please like and subscribe and follow me on all the socials, links in the description. But until next time, this is Doug from 10 Minute Amiga Retrocast signing out so I can go quickly change my logo before I'm sued.